Hi, I'm Carrie Candy, and this is the Delta First podcast. Real conversations, real issues, real accountability. Now, let's get started. Hi, welcome back to the Delta First YouTube channel. We're glad to have you. I'm here with Tammy Hansen, who's running for council in Delta. Tammy, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Carrie.
So, Tammy, I'd love to hear about your history here in Delta and why you think this is a great place to live.
I grew up actually in Richmond initially, but I have now been here for over 30 years. So I would say that home is definitely Delta. My husband and I, we went to a bunch of different neighborhoods when we were looking to rent all over the Lower Mainland, and we ended up picking Delta. And then after we rented for a year, we decided this is where we wanted to plant roots, and so we were very fortunate to be able to buy a home. And then we started our family, and we got married here. And so Delta has raised my family. I then convinced my parents to move from Richmond into Delta, and even in their 60s, 70s, now 80s, they would say that it's the best decision they've ever made. Just being a part of this community. My mom does aquafit. She's done gymnastics. She, cleaned some houses for some residents. My dad, he's a City of Richmond worker, but he's retired here, and he has found such a connection of gentlemen to meet with, and just that real welcoming sense of community that he needed in his retirement years. My children went off to university, and I would have thought that at least one of them would have been captured by Vancouver or Victoria or someplace outside of Delta. But now that they're finishing their education, they both decided to plant their roots here. So yeah, Delta is definitely home for 3 generations of my family.
Wow. And so what I hear there too is that you've got a perspective because of your kids and because of your parents of what your constituents in the senior demographic and in the Gen Z or millennial graphic is. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because it kind of gives you you're sitting right at the front row of what's happening with those groups.
Yeah. So with my parents, I'm an only child. And so I've become, a caregiver and a support for them as well. Looking at the fact that we have a little hospital in our community is great, but making sure that, their senior programs are there, and that there's, transportation options, and, even simple things like finding a GP. They were very fortunate. They both now have one, but, my dad sat on a wait list for quite a number of years going to walk-in clinics. And, as a senior, that's difficult when, especially if you have some healthcare needs, not having to have a doctor that can follow you through, your day-to-day regime, and making sure that, you're getting the proper oversight and care. Because you go into a walk-in clinic, chances are you're going to see a different doctor every time you go. And it's just, having that consistency. So I think having happy, healthy, active seniors is huge for both of my parents.
I just thought about something else. A third thing is the care partner or caregiver end of things too, right? Like you were saying that you have been helping out your folks, and we're seeing a lot of generational where you've got the kids, but you've also got the parents that need support as well. So you're kind of sandwiched in. And caregivers really have a big challenge. A lot of them are still working. A lot of them have children that they're raising at the same time. Like I said, can you speak to a little bit about what that means as far as your energy and how you show up in the community?
Well, I know that there are a number of community organizations, whether they're private or public, that do help some caregivers to alleviate some of that stress and need. I know that the province had, I believe it's called Better at Home, basically the idea that seniors age better when they're in their home as opposed to moving into an assisted facility. And that's not always the case for everybody. And I mean, then that kind of goes into our long-term care facility that has now been put on hold, which is unfortunate because there's a need, because there are many seniors who don't have access to caregivers. And so being able to have that, that facility in place. So we would love to see that project back up and going. But yeah, I mean, many of our community organizations are there to basically help help with our seniors. If we were to go to the other end of the spectrum for for young families, obviously buying a home has now become a dream as opposed to
It has,
yeah,
yeah. It's tough.
it is to get into the market these days. It's not the same. I mean, as difficult as it was for my husband and I in the 90s, it's exponentially, minimum
Hmm.
wage and all those other things. Being able to get a house is really almost generational giving that has to take place in order for that to happen.
Hmm.
And so having rentals and other affordable housing options is obviously a huge thing. Because yeah, if young families want to stay in Delta, having housing that they can afford to live in, and if they choose to have if they choose to have families,
Hmm.
having those recreational programs and having the education and making sure that the schools are within their area.
And care, daycare,
Daycare.
day homes, all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Delta's been fairly fortunate in that we've had quite a number of daycares open in the last number of years. I don't know how many of the provincial $10 a day daycares that we
Mm.
have, which again is just kind of that balance is being able to have the facilities that
Hmm.
that can support young families. But yeah, I mean the challenges are different whether you're in your 20s, 30s
Yeah,
to your 40s, 60s, and then of course 65 plus.
right.
We all have different concerns and needs, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all for supporting them all as best I can because I live all of those generations every day.
Yeah. A lot of people talk about how provincial, those are provincial programs or that's provincial funding. Can you talk a little bit about, if you're elected, how you plan on making an impact at the municipal level for these groups?
Yeah, and so whether or not the province makes the decisions or the province funds those programs, I think at the municipal level, if there's a need, we need to advocate for our residents,
Hmm.
to make sure that they're getting the proper funding, that we're pushing through on projects, that we're not dragging our heels on much needed, our tunnel bridge, whatever it
Hmm.
seems to be this rolling revolving. But yeah, I mean, to spend money on an inquiry and drag it out longer doesn't seem reasonable. I mean, that's just one of many programs that are ongoing. But yeah, I think at a municipal level, to say that we don't it's outside of our realm of responsibility.
Hmm.
I think we have a responsibility to our residents to be that liaison between the municipality and the province.
Hmm.
And so whether it's our responsibility or not, I think sometimes we have to yell or
Hmm.
scream or stomp our feet to make sure that we get noticed and that
Yeah,
that the province doesn't
absolutely.
forget about us.
Absolutely. Um, do you, are your kids Gen Z or are they millennials? What are they?
They would be Gen Z.
Okay.
And so they're just sort of finishing post-secondary education,
Yeah.
establishing their career. So they're in their 20s.
Right.
Um,
And they're going to be making up a massive amount of the voting population in the years to come
yeah.
already. And but yet they're not coming out as much as, say, the senior population traditionally has. What would you say to them as a mom of Gen Zs? What would you say to those that you want to encourage to come out and vote?
So, I mean, my kids have been advocates. So basically, as soon as they were voting age, they wanted to vote. And I remember there being the question of saying, like, who do I vote for? I'm like, well, don't look at me. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. You need to go and answer the questions online.
That's
You
right.
need to you need to find the people or the party that best ticks all the boxes for you,
Hmm.
because your boxes may be different than mine. And so, yeah, it's not about educating your children to go and vote the way you want them to vote.
Mm.
It's about telling young people, and whether it's through Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, however we reach that generation,
Hmm.
it's about expressing how important it is to be informed in municipal politics and how much it affects your day-to-day life, even maybe more so than provincial or federal decisions.
Hmm.
So those are the conversations I've been having with that 20 to 30-year-old group, or even younger, 18,
Mm.
to basically say, maybe you're not paying property taxes, or, but at the end of the day, this is your home. You grew up here. There's different programs that you attended when you were growing up. You were educated here. You went to elementary and high school. Your parents and your grandparents, live here,
Yeah.
and it's important for you to start educating yourself early on, and so that you can make those informed decisions, for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you want to know more about the Delta First team and want to do your research, we encourage you to visit our website, which is deltafirst.ca. That's DELTAFIRST. Thank you so much, Tammy, for your time.
And thank you, Carrie, for
We'll be
having me.
talking to you again.
You bet.
Okay.